Hey, it's Adam, and in this video, I'd like to talk about how to use magic mushrooms for the purpose of personal development and how you can get the most out of your magic mushroom experience. And I'd also like to talk about how people misuse and misunderstand the mushrooms and have terrible experiences. Then they would blame the mushroom and demonize them, which is what we currently have. And I would like to talk about how we can heal our relationship with this amazing fungi, and how I think magic mushrooms are one of the most powerful personal development tools that you can use if done right. So I'm going to be going over the proper protocol that you should use if you do plan on experiencing the world of magic mushrooms, which is absolutely amazing. So I've done magic mushrooms maybe about 10 times, and each experience was absolutely phenomenal. I've really gained a lot of personal growth from using magic mushrooms, and this is because I really respect the fungi, and I do the research, and I also seek to grow myself as an individual. My motivation for doing magic mushrooms is to do some type of inner healing or personal development, compared to when most people do magic mushrooms, they just want to get high and just feel drunk and stumble around and see funny things. And unfortunately, if that is your motivation, you are going to probably have a bad trip, or even if you do have a good trip, you're really going to be only at the surface level of your magic mushroom experience, where you could be going way, way, way deeper and getting a lot more growth. So here are a couple of ground rules that I use on my personal magic mushroom trips, and listen up. So number one is set and setting. And what this means basically is, well, all of these rules are going to involve set and setting. And what that means is your set is your mindset. So what you are personally bringing into the trip. And the second portion is setting. So where are you tripping? What's your environment like? What's the vibe? What's the energy? So for setting, you want to be in a safe area. So it could be your house when you are home alone. That is probably one of the best settings because your house is a safe place. You're home alone. It could be at a park or some type of natural environment where you feel safe, like you're not going to get lost. And I would recommend, if it's your first time ever doing magic mushrooms, to maybe go about the experience with one friend, no more than that. Once you start to get into 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, some people do them at concerts or festivals. If it's your first time, you may have an amazing experience, but you may also feel overwhelmed by all of the external stimulation that's around at a festival. It's a crazy, so much stuff going on, right? And that might be overwhelming. So I would recommend doing it by yourself or with one friend, and that'll be a much more personal and also deep experience than if you were to do it at a festival, for example. So another thing that's very important is do them on an empty stomach, preferably in the morning, because you should block out the entire day so that you have a free day to do magic mushrooms. So mushrooms are not the type of thing where you're going to do them at 2 p.m. and then later that day at 7 you have to go to work or something. That is an absolutely terrible thing to do. You are losing all of the integration period where you integrate into your life what you learned on the trip. So block out the entire day. Make sure that you have a free day. And even better, if the next following day after you do mushrooms is also a free day, that is the optimal way to do them, because then you're going to feel calm, you're going to be able to let go and relax, and you're also going to be able to have some relaxation time to integrate whatever you learned on your mushroom trip. So make sure you have a free day. I would recommend doing them in the morning on an empty stomach. Empty stomach is super, super, super important. I have had experiences with friends who eat too much beforehand and then it makes them feel nauseous. The mushrooms don't fully digest and integrate throughout your system, and that's just not what you want. You want to be on an empty stomach. Very important. If you do want to eat, I would eat like 1 or 2 strawberries, like very, very, very light eating. And for most of the day, you're actually going to be on an empty stomach when you are on your mushroom trip. And that is optimal because when there is no food in your body, you are energetically in a place where healing can occur within your body. Whenever I personally do magic mushrooms, I'm always on an empty stomach, and there's always a lot more energy flow that is not being blocked by a bunch of food sitting in my stomach. And what'll usually happen anyways if you eat too much is you'll just want to yak, and that's not really a pleasant experience. So empty stomach in the morning. Some other ground rules is that you should research dosages and feel what's right for you. In general, with dried magic mushrooms, just as a disclaimer, this is not medical advice. If you do something stupid, that's 100% your responsibility, but I'm just covering my own ass. But this is pretty standard. This is pretty general. You can trust me on this one. 1.5 grams chewing, chew them. That is a beginner dose. That's like you're just trying it out for the first time. You want to see how you feel. 2 grams is the first time I did 2 grams, and that was pretty calm. I was able to control it also, but also get the full experience. So if you're a beginner, I'd recommend about 2 grams. And then as you go up, so 3 grams is a lot more powerful, more of a medium dose. 4 grams is getting to the heavier dosages. 4 grams I would not recommend for a beginner. That's too much mushrooms. And 5 grams is the most that I've done personally, and that was an extremely, extremely intense experience that I would not recommend to a beginner who is just trying mushrooms, or even really anyone who does not feel very grounded in their own mind state. I'd not recommend doing 5 grams. I'd recommend starting around 2, maybe 3 grams. That's a good experience. So some mindsets that you want to bring with you into your mushroom trip, I'm going to go over those now. So that was the practical details. Now, more about the mindsets that you want to bring with you is, first of all, when you eat your mushrooms, chew them. You don't eat them with pizza. I've heard people putting them in sandwiches or putting them on pizza. That is disgusting. Don't do that. You're eating this processed bread with your mushrooms. That's gross. Don't do that. Instead, if you really, really hate the taste, which really, if you hate the taste of the mushroom, then you really shouldn't even be doing the mushroom, because you are clearly not ready for what you're about to experience. Because if you can't even handle a couple minutes of an unpleasant taste in your mouth, you are gonna have a terrible experience when in 2 hours you are facing some type of personal obstacle, which is very unpleasant. You're gonna resist that a lot. So what I personally recommend is just chew them raw, man. They don't taste that great, but that's that's the mindset that you got to have, that I don't care if I suffer a little bit, because this is an experience that I'm doing to grow myself personally. If I wanted to stay safe and comfortable the whole time, I wouldn't do mushrooms. I would just eat ice cream in my bed. So don't put them in a sandwich. Anyways, so some mindsets that you want to have is, first, when you eat them, you want to set an intention for your trip before the trip begins. So you want to set an intention. What do I want? Here are some examples of good positive intentions that you can have. For example, I want to feel more at home in my body. That's a fantastic intention. I usually feel amazing when I set that intention. I feel like a monkey, and I can jump around and and just feel super loose, and I just feel amazing. Another good intention is to connect with nature. So if you're doing mushrooms in a natural environment, that can be an amazing intention, to connect with nature. I've had a lot of great trips with that intention as well. Other good intentions is to discover truth, or to learn about my present experience, or to learn about my mind, or even to work through some type of personal issue. So you're eating the mushrooms, you're taking time, you're maybe with your one friend, or you're by yourself, which is what I recommend. I would not recommend doing it in a social setting. You're by yourself, you're setting your intention, very serious, very intentful. Then after you set your intention, you can forget about it. Just let that thought go out into the universe. It'll come back for sure during your trip. And then as you're digesting the mushrooms, you have about 30 to 45 minutes before they start coming on. And at this point, what I've done two different things. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'll meditate. If I'm by myself, 30 to 45 minutes, I'll meditate. Then when the mushrooms start coming on, I'm in a really peaceful, relaxed, accepting state, so that I can go really deep. Another thing you can do is, if you're feeling a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of anxiety, is you can put on some music and just dance it out. Put on some Bee Gees or some disco music, or it's just some type of good vibes. Don't put on any angry Eminem rap music. Just put on some really light vibes and dance it out. You'll actually puts you in the right zone. And then dance for 20 minutes and sit down and wait for them to come on. Another mindset that you want to have is, I am going to accept whatever happens to me. I'm not going to fight the experience. This is super, super important, which is also why you want to be in a calm, relaxed, safe setting, so that there's nothing for you to fight against, so that you can surrender, because that is when the most personal development and the most deep and life-transforming experiences happen, is when you can fully surrender to the healing that you're about to receive. And the thing with healing is that it's not always pleasant. Often mushrooms will bring up a lot of past psychological trauma, such as arguments that you've had in past relationships. Maybe you've had a falling out with some of your siblings or your mom. All that stuff may come up, and it may make you feel sad, but the goal is to surrender to whatever you're feeling, because what is happening when you're taking the mushrooms is your awareness is expanding, and you start to become aware of all of the trauma that you're holding as tension and resistance in your body. So you start to become aware of that. Let me release a little bit of tension and resistance in my body right now. As you start to become aware of that, it's going to purge out of you in the form of maybe some very intense emotions like crying, yelling, or maybe you might want to throw up, or you might want to use the bathroom and shit out all of your trauma. But in general, just be ready for that. And the last point that I wanted to make was about tolerance and having respect for the fungi. So let's say you take 2 grams, you like it, you have a good time, then the next time you want to take 3 grams or even 4 grams. It's important to understand that these mushrooms are very, very powerful, and just because you have a good time once, it doesn't mean that the next time is going to be all butterflies and rainbows. Have respect for the plant or for the fungi. Don't get cocky, don't get arrogant. Always double check your doses. Definitely purchase some type of scale, which you can get at a lot of convenience stores, like a bong shop or something like that. They sell scales for scaling your spices. But it's good to have a gram scale. You can probably order one off of Amazon, so that you can weigh your dosages. So you know you're taking 2 grams. You can't see what 2 grams looks like. If you have a friend who has a scale, ask to borrow his scale. That's very important. Also, I wouldn't do them any more frequently than 2 weeks in between each trip. So if you do them on Tuesday in March, I would wait until 2 weeks after that. So the next Tuesday, then you can do them again. Any more frequently than that, first of all, you're not giving yourself enough time for integration of your experience. And also, you're going to have some type of tolerance, and you're not going to get the full effect. So that's a waste of your time and money. So I hope you enjoyed this talk. Stay tuned for more videos like these, and I'll see you in the next video.